guys, gals, and non-binary pals, it's DMG, and welcome back to World of Tanks Blitz. And today I have a full tank review of the Japanese medium tank. It is the STB-1. Now, the STB-1, what is it going to take to play this tank successfully? The catchphrase, if you want to be successful, is going to be minimize exposure. Now, you're saying dark, but minimizing exposure, that goes for any tank. Well, yes, but in order to play the STB-1 well and help your team win, to maximize personal statistics and to help the team win, minimizing exposure is all you need to do in this tank. As you can see in this fight with the Object 140, I've put 2 shots into him and he has put 0 into me. Now this T-54 has gotten smart and won't let me use the same 10 degrees of gun depression against him, and he has decided to YOLO me. While the Foch takes out our Object 140, the T-54 is keen on not letting me use that gun depression, but 350 alpha is really nice when you're not DPM warring a T-54. For every 310 he puts into me, I am able to put 350 on average into him. And while that may not seem like a large difference, it does pay off in the long run. And while the gun accuracy isn't the best, and while I do not use calibrated shells, it is enough to go through the lower plate of a Jagdpanzer E-100. Unlike that last shot, it does donk some shots. Heat penetration just either missing or not penetrating the turret of a T-57, going back to APCR and getting the penetration. And yes, it's not special like with the stationary accuracy of the E-50M, or the laser pointer weaponry of the Leopard 1, or the Hesh firing FB-4202, or the renowned bloom values on the move of the M60 and the M48. It doesn't have those special qualities of other 105 medium tank guns, but it has enough. It pens enough shot. I just penned an E-100 all the way across the map using standard APCR, and I'm able to use that view range and that DPM to its fullest extent, as long as idiotic 704s do not block me while I'm trying to shoot. Go screw yourself. Anyways, back to the tank review. The gun isn't the best, but it works enough. And in this replay, you saw me minimize exposure. And you will now see this DPM go to work. And you couldn't do this with calibrated shells. For the shots that I'm going to make in total, it would have taken me 1 extra second, and that may have made the difference with him shooting me had I been using calibrated shells. Now it's just cleanup work, and that Yag is dead. But to rehash the traits that you want to maximize in this tank, you may want to get a notepad and write them down if I speak too fast. 10 degrees of gun depression, a small profile, acceptable DPM, top view range, a 105mm cannon, and the ability to have 330 heat penetration. Oh, also don't forget that it has a decently strong turret, which is what I'm about to show you right here on Canyon. And while the gun elevation may not be the greatest, and while it may not be the best medium tank, it is my favorite medium tank in the game for the specific blend of traits it has. Now, on Canyon, the center of the map is the perfect microenvironment for the STB-1. Why? It has view range to spot the whole map. It has 10 degrees of gun depression to get easy shots in across the rails. And while the gun accuracy isn't the best, like you just saw, I am able to put in easier shots on this grill. And the tank is low profile enough to abuse that bush camouflage. And I'm able to hit a cheeky shot on the 183. And now think about this. If I were in a Leopard 1, would I be able to do what you are about to see right now? Hit a shot on the grill and bounce one from him. If I was even in the 140 or the 62A, do you think I would have been able to do that? Probably not. The gun depression would not allow it, and I would have to poke my hull. And yes, the weapon doesn't have the greatest DPM like the 140 or the 62. And yes, you can get penned by 183s that sit in the spawn when you turn your turret, but it does have enough of a gun to hit shots on this mouse, unlike you saw on that IS-7. I will be able to pop adrenaline, put one, will I get a second? Yes, a second shot. He rams the building, which means I will be getting a third shot and be doing over 1000 HP damage to that mouse in about 10 seconds. And having this competitive rate of fire is enough to get you even more shots on M103s. But do you see how I'm minimizing exposure? I'm using that bush to its fullest potential, using the gun depression, using the gun and the DPM, make sure I'm firing on the reload as much as possible, and unlike the Patton, I'm able to get around the M103 kind of quick, and I do make a mistake here, and he is able to shoot me, but the Patton really wouldn't have a chance at doing that, as it does not have the mobility to get up to speed quickly. And also, unlike the Patton, the low profile nature and the 10 degrees of gun depression and the great view range allows you to get shots on 183s. And it is very hard for them to shoot you back. And it is for this reason it has this specific blend of traits that I like. Good DPM, good gun depression, armor in the right areas, enough mobility. That is what makes a perfect tank for me, at least right off the top of my head. And yes, it does have some middling traits, but it's hard to overlook the positives of this tank, even when presented with all the negatives of it. Now, yes, like I said, the accuracy isn't the best. The gun elevation isn't the best. It doesn't really do anything better than the Patton. The Patton is usually going to do it better in most situations compared to the STB-1. But that extra degree of gun depression and low turret armor, low profile, really just allow me to feel comfortable. On Yamato Harbor, I'm going to push that middle hill, and you're going to see me always use terrain to my advantage here, minimizing exposure using terrain. And this might be where the STB in this niche situation does do it better than the Patton, because since it is a lower profile tank with more gun depression, it allows me to have better camouflage and expose less of my hull to the tank destroyers that will most likely be sitting into my spawn bush across from me. Now, that T-54, he must have been watching my videos because he has the same idea as me, but he doesn't have the gun depression to work the area, and I do. And unlike the Russian mediums at tier 10, I have 245 millimeters of base penetration and can go through a IS-7 lower plate and an IS-7 side turret on certain angles. I wouldn't say try that reliably, but 245 does make a significant difference from 240. And again, right there, that's a perfect example of minimal exposure. 10 degrees of gun depression, low profile, being able to hit that 183, knowing that I'm not going to get another shot, using that 105 millimeter cannon as opposed to a 100 millimeter to pump as much damage as I can in that moment. And now, knowing that that tank destroyer on my team is going to sit behind me, I can effectively do a 2-on-1 brawl in this scenario with the 140 and the T-54 that comes up to help him. But the 140 and the T-54 don't have the gun depression for this, so they can't really push out without getting flogged by the tank destroyer, which allows me to effectively fight these guys in a 2-on-1. And what can they do? They can try and hit me, but all they see is a trollish turret, and it makes it very difficult for them. And in this trading situation where, we're not firing on the reload, my 350 Alpha wins out over their 310. And this is so important for trying to brawl these Russian mediums. And I do get a lucky bounce off the back there. But 10 degrees of gun depression allows me to put in a shot like that. I'd have to expose more of my hull if I were in a 62A. And FV-4202 would not be able to survive in this environment as it doesn't have the turret, despite it having 10 degrees of gun depression. So like I said, the specific blend of traits that the STB-1 has allow it to work a lot of hilly environments that make the tank quite the little terror to deal with. And especially for me personally, a lot of people like to shoot me, so being able to minimize my exposure while still outputting damage on a consistent basis is very, very acceptable and beneficial to me. Now you can run calibrated shells on this tank, which puts your APCR penetration up to about 257, which will go through most targets with ease, and it will put your heat penetration back up to 330. That is pre 3.6 levels of medium heat penetration. So you can't really go wrong there. It is very, very healthy if you want to run the calibrated shells. I personally use rammer, but if you are dead set on having that penetration capability, being able to have 330 on your heat is so important, and 257 just feels like a dream because now you have penetration higher than that of the base penetration of the Leopard 1 at the current moment. And the Leopard 1's base penetration is more than enough to go through most targets. Now, in this game, you're going to see me go more to a front line position to engage the enemy. Previously, you've seen me just take low-risk shots of opportunity. Of course, they are low risk because I've been able to minimize exposure because of the strengths of this tank. I see no one in this bush, and I am going to see someone pop on my right very soon. I assume no one's there, and this is only going to be compounded by the fact that I see, what, a heavy tank on my right? Yeah. So I'm like, okay, no one's here. I'm going to go into this base and cap it. I get spotted, but then lo and behold, two other mediums are there. Screw the base. I'm going to go right into a strong position that favors gun depression and put shots into this PTA. Now that PTA, he can't really do anything, and even this 183 who's staring at me is going to have a tough time putting shots in. Once again, could a Leo 1 do this? Absolutely not. The 183 has to back off, knowing that he cannot reliably penetrate me. And this is where 10 degrees of gun depression really comes in, and yes, the Object 140 hit my hull there, but it's more of an unreliable penetration for him, and I'm easily able to poke over these ridges to where the Object 140 and TCC-2A tanks could not. And that 140 just wants to tunnel me, which is quite annoying. But it does work in this situation because since we're going 1-for-1 shots, 350 alpha versus 310, I win again. Now, it's all about using all these traits together. You've seen me use the 10 degrees of gun depression, small profile, the good DPM, the best view range in the game, the 105mm cannon, and the decent turret, all blended together just to create this one stellar package of a tank. Now, you have to use all of those things whenever you can. If you don't use those tools, even in city environments like Dynasty's Pearl, you will find yourself in dire straits with the STB-1. This is not an Object 140. You cannot fight people on flat ground and expect to win every time. It is very difficult. 300mm of heat penetration is more than enough to go through the cheeks of a mouse when he is unangled, and the low profile prevents him from getting a return shot off at me. Competitive rate of fire, I wouldn't get that shot off if I ran calibrated shells. So for all the people that do enjoy calibrated shells, I'm telling you that rammer is an acceptable option if you choose to try it. It is really up to personal preference for that slot. And this Leopard 1 has to hide from me. He doesn't have the turret armor to poke now that he's a one-shot. And I can easily go down here and clean up the mess. But as you can see, all these traits come together. Competitive rate of fire allowing me to take out the Leopard 1, and the 105 cannon guarantees that I'm going to kill him, unlike the Russians, which if they roll low, it's disastrous for them, and the Leopard 1 may be able to get a shot or two into them if he's smart. But that's the STB-1 in a nutshell. Just remember the phrase, minimize exposure. And I know I didn't commentate much on the games themselves, but it is just important to remember minimize exposure. You may even want to just remember that phrase and watch the same video again. Just replay the video and watch it again without the sound on. Just remember, minimize exposure. How am I minimizing exposure? And you're going to see that here as well, but I'm not going to go fully in depth with this game, as I have kept you past 15 minutes. So right now, I just want to take the time to thank the 166 of you now that have subscribed to my channel. I really appreciate it. You subscribing gives me incentive to produce more content that is exciting and fun for you. Like I said, this is not going to be a news channel. This is to help you improve at the game. So by subscribing to my channel, it gives me more motivation to produce the highest quality content for you to learn from. So if you enjoyed this content, please slap that like button and subscribe. If you didn't, please leave your constructive criticism in the comment section. And as always, thank you for allowing me to share my passion with you today, and I'll see you next time.